Help keep our community safe and healthy during National Prescription Drug Takeback Day, October 25th. Find a collection site near you at deatakeback.com. Do your part to lower overdose deaths and prevent drug misuse before it starts.
It's Monday.
It's October 20th.
And the word of the day is tansmore. It's a Danish word that describes bread that's buttered so thickly you could see tooth marks in the butter after every bite.
Oh, fucking gross.
Used in a sentence, lexicographer Susie Dent has amazing words of the day like tansmore, literal translation, tooth butter.
What the fuck is going on in Denmark where somebody was like, there really needs to be a word for this?
Deliciousness is what was going on. I'll tell you what, deliciousness.
Butter. Yeah.
I'm Noah Lugeons.
I'm Eli Bosnick.
I'm Heath Enright, and broadcasting delayed from America's Far Center, we are the Skepticrats.
On this week's episode, RFK Jr. tries to give Tylenol credit for my son's sweet puzzle skills.
J.D. Vance explains that Hitler was just a young guy making offensive jokes.
And Dr. Phil is a very sad failure.
But first, the rest of the intro music.
Joining me for headlines tonight are my fellow Skepticrats, No Illusions, and Eli Bosnick. Gentlemen, QED coming right up. Any bold predictions for the weekend?
Eli Bosnick becomes the first person to win both Skeptic of the Year and the Rusty Razor Award in the same year.
Ooh, exciting.
I was going to say that Andy and Marsh are finally going to fuck. There's just nothing stopping them anymore, you know?
I suppose. All right, we'll see how it goes. In our lead story tonight, Republicans are bigots. So, okay. I know it's not every single Republican, but yes, it is. Yes, it is. You can't vote for that party and not be helping bigots. You're a bigot. And just in terms of the most recent data, Republicans are even more bigoted than their outward appearance of very bigot. Thanks to a report from Politico, we got to see what happens in the group chat when members of the Young Republicans organization are speaking privately with each other, or at least they were hoping it was private. They used an incognito window. I don't know what happened.
Oh,
now
well, in that case.
Yeah, now it's public, and we learned that the answer is Hitler. It's like Hitler. If Adolf Hitler became a group chat, it was that. But you know what? Actually, with a wider breadth of bigot stuff, it was Hitlerer than Hitler. It was Hitlerer.
Yeah, this stuff is embarrassing to the fatherland. These memes are cringe-tastic. Please don't associate me.
Yeah, but it's just another reminder that calls to compromise with these people are ultimately calls to only kill 3 million Jews, right?
Yeah. So here's what we learned from Politico. Somehow they got access to a group chat of about a dozen young Republicans ranging in age from 18 to 40. The members include multiple elected official Republicans, one member of a Trump cabinet department, and leaders of young Republican chapters in New York, Vermont, Arizona, and Kansas. Over the course of 7 months, Politico collected about 2,900 pages of messages and released a detailed breakdown last week. The conversation included 251 slur words and constant references to Hitler, the Holocaust, sexual assault, white supremacy, and all different flavors of bigotry. So gross, but not a surprise. And they were either neo-Nazis or making a drug deal or sometimes both. So, of course, they were on Telegram. This was a Telegram group chat.
Hey, look, I know I have had my issues with how the press has handled the Trump administration, but having to be the guy who reads the 2,900 pages of the Young Republican group chat, that's cruel and unusual punishment. I don't wish that on anybody.
I will admit, though, credit where credit is due, that is a way lower slur word per page ratio than I was expecting.
Shockingly low.
Yeah.
Shockingly low. Maybe they're just talking about how many different slur words total.
They were
have
taking
like that
that's
many.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that makes
Multiple uses. Not clear. So amidst all that terrible, we did get a couple fun details in the chat. At one moment, several idiots from the New York chapter of the Young Republicans started openly discussing their illegal use of donation money to their organization. And it turns out Politico was already investigating that idea separately. They were being investigated for the illegal use of the donation money. So that chapter just got disbanded like this week, but hopefully they'll also get prosecuted for, I don't know, embezzling money. We'll see how it goes. And here's my favorite part of the whole chat. GOP operative, now unemployable GOP operative Bobby Walker said, quote, "If we ever had a leak of this chat, we'd be cooked. FR. And I think that's for real.
Yeah. Okay, but if you embezzle from the Republicans, that's a good thing. You just confessed to the only good thing you'll probably ever do.
Sure.
Hey, guys, why did we even put big dollar signs on the outside of these bags? They don't come like this. We had to do this ourselves.
So in response to the chat going public, several of the bigots got fired from their jobs as staffers for Republicans currently in office because getting caught being an obvious neo-Nazi is unethical, so you got to get fired for that. They also got stern talkings to from a small handful of GOP leaders, like Mike Lawler of my hometown, the New York representative in Congress, and Elise Stefanik also gave a stern talking to the neo-Nazis. Unfortunately, that level of moral character wasn't possible for J.D. Vance. He didn't rise to the level of Elise Stefanik on the morality here. Couchfucker said it was just kids telling offensive jokes and everybody needs to relax. And nope, not kids. It's all adults. One of them is 2 years younger than JD. He also decided to what about the revelation of literal neo-Nazis and complain about a Democrat who said a bad thing on Twitter 3 years ago.
And also, hey, not jokes, right? I think some of it was jokes. Some of it was just bigotry, though. I'm not an expert on much. But if the various subclauses on the whiteboard prove I know about any goddamn thing, it's where is this fucking line?
You're welcome, you guys.
Yeah. And none of JD's remarks included, like, also Hitler was bad or anything similar. So maybe JD's not as hypocritical as we think for joining the MAGA movement. When he called Donald Trump America's Hitler back in the day, I guess it was a compliment. He's always been a big fan, not hypocritical. So, okay. In terms of the jokes, I'm fully aware that people make offensive jokes that aren't a true representation of their inner thoughts. I've done that myself.
I hope so, yeah.
This wasn't that.
No.
This wasn't that. They're not just jokes. Maybe a few were, but they're not just jokes. But let's pretend that every single slur word and white power comment and sexual assault reference and casual Holocaust invocation were all 100% jokes.
We're still
Even
talking
granting
about
that insane premise. None of the jokes were funny. That's what. So, like,
that is important.
They're not even the structure of a joke to make it even theoretically possible for them to be jokes. It's just evil people saying a bigot thing. But okay, now let's pretend any of these people had a single ounce of humor and they did pull off like an ironic white power joke. No, you didn't. It's not ironic if you're a Republican activist. It can't be. Your party is actually doing a bunch of the neo-Nazi stuff that J.D. Vance is trying to claim you were joking about. You can't do postmodern satire of the thing you're actually doing. That's just naming the shitty, evil things you're actually doing.
Right. Yeah. Yes. You know what I want to do? I want to sit J.D. Vance down, not on a couch. I know how he gets, but I want to sit him down, go fucking point by point and say, explain this joke to me. I don't get it. What's the joke about? Well, what do you expect from a Jew? Explain that joke to me, right?
Where's the jape? I don't know. Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of J.D. Vance being quizzed on a couch and kind of shaking, we're going to toss it over to a word from our sponsor. They'll love this. Quince.
Okay, how about now?
Oh, you're ready.
Nice.
Hey, guys. What you doing? Are you guys wearing sumo suits?
Psh, sumo suits. More like cozy suits.
Cozy suits for what?
For QED, of course. We're going to be in the blustery winter of England. But luckily, we got Quince.
Don't you mean mince? Eli, I think that isn't vegan.
No, not mince. Quince. Quince has the kind of fall staples you'll actually want to wear on repeat. Like 100% Mongolian cashmere from just $60, classic fit denim, and real leather and wool outerwear that looks sharp and holds up.
$60? How do they manage that?
By partnering directly with ethical factories and top artisans, Quince cuts out the middlemen to deliver premium quality at half the cost of similar brands.
All right, but have you actually tried it?
We sure have. Quince sent us some stuff to try when they first became a sponsor. Now they're Anna's favorite pants. That's why I, Eli Bosnick, personally endorse Quince.
All right, guys, I'm sold. Where do I sign up?
Layer up this fall with pieces that feel as good as they look. Go to quince.com/Skepticrat for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. That's QUINCE.com/Skepticrat. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Skepticrat.
All right, guys. So you got any extra quince for me?
No, but there's a layer of mints under the quince. You can have some of that.
You want to see?
I'd rather not.
Yeah, fair.
Warm. And we're back. Next up in headlines in Slee Crazy after all these years.
What?
Okay, so here's why that pun. You know what? We'll save it. We'll save it for the end. It's a little treat.
It's like
So
the
it's not
Republican
still crazy.
young Republican text. It's a joke. Trust
Exactly.
me.
You gotta
It's
trust me.
Slill.
I'm gonna bring. Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Thank you. The first debate of the New York City mayoral race took place this past Thursday, and if you're looking for thoughtful, informed, and educated analysis of the debate, you're listening to the wrong podcast.
Why
But
would
fear
you
not,
expect
listener.
that?
Vote for Mamdani. There you go.
Exactly.
That's the
We
analysis
did
you
it.
need.
We found it, everybody. Vote for the guy who already won. But fear not, listener, because here at the Skepticrat, we're covering something that the lamestream media is afraid to. I'm talking, of course, about the unhinged, semi-coherent word salad that made up the answers of our favorite New York City mayoral candidate, Curtis Sliwa.
Okay. He didn't wear his karate beret to the debate, and I think that fucked up his mental flow. I think he's used to having that. You know what I mean?
I didn't include it in the story. Third answer he gave was, they wouldn't let me wear my karate beret. I wanted to wear my karate beret, and they said no.
Excellent. I did not catch that part.
Yeah. Speaking to the heated exchanges between Mamdani and Cuomo, Sliwa said, quote, well, first of all, there's high levels of testosterone in this room. I've had a love-hate relationship with Donald Trump that goes back over 30 years. But I know one thing. We have Andrew Cuomo. We have Zoran Mamdani. They want to take on Donald Trump. Look, you can be tough, but you can't be tough if it's going to cost people desperately needed federal funds. End quote.
Oh, Jesus. Why capitulate when you can capitulate early?
Exactly. And of course, our hero was not afraid to take on his fellow candidates either. Sliwa, who has had choice words for Cuomo since premiering his infamous slapping fannies and killing grannies, had this to say about Cuomo's tenure as governor. Quote, when you were governor for 8 years, your parole board released 43 cop killers back into the street. Your father, when he was governor, released none. I know Mario Cuomo. You're no Mario Cuomo.
Okay. If Mario Cuomo was still alive when Andrew Cuomo said bacon, cheese, and egg on an English muffin, we could have watched Andrew Cuomo getting beat up by a 92-year-old man.
Yeah.
But alas.
But of course, we didn't tune into CTV for commentary on policy. No, we tuned in for batshit takes. For example, when candidates were asked about their personal finances, namely how much in public transit goes on their credit cards a month, Sliwa answered, quote, I don't have a credit card. I have a debit card, end quote.
Okay, that's a truly insane answer. Like debit money is made of different numbers than credit money. I don't know. But I get it from a bank perspective. Like when a guy applies for a credit card and he's wearing a karate beret, I feel like you say no. You sure that guy's not getting a credit
You sure
card.
do. Hey, have you ever been hit by a cab on national television? Well, then we're going to go ahead and pass.
No, I think you're lying and you have a karate beret.
But my favorite Sliwa-ism of the night, the one that already caught a little media attention, came when candidates were asked how they get home when the subway is down. Sliwa's answer was, quote, I try to avoid yellow cabs. As you know, I was shot in the back of a yellow cab in 1992 by the Gottis and the Gambinos. But I find my way around if I have to. I Uber. End quote.
All right. Well, you heard him, Cosa Nostra. Anyway, Zoran Mamdani is pretty great. He's going to do good stuff, or he's going to get caught trying to do good stuff. Early voting starts on October 25th. Do it.
I'm sorry, I have to rewind back. Does he think that the mob doesn't know about Ubers or that they're bulletproof? Or
Great
what?
questions. These are great questions. So yeah, look, I might not be able to chime in on why Andrew Cuomo killed everyone's grandma, or why Mamdani hates parades and refuses to name a mere all of them, but I do know who I'd be voting for were I still a New York City resident. He's a karate master. He's been hit by a car on national television, and he doesn't have a credit card.
And he got into a yellow cab once, and like an entire Gambino crime family was sitting there, and they were like, some of us are Gottis as part of this Gambino crime family. We're going to shoot you now.
Let's go
together.
around with a round of introductions.
And then an is from an autism news. One of the most remarkable things about the conspiracy theorist universe is how easily mutually exclusive conspiracies can coexist. You move in those circles long enough and you're going to meet people who believe that Bigfoot is both an alien and a demon. Or who think that the Earth is only 6,000 years old and a simulation. Hell, if you look around long enough, you're going to find somebody who thinks the Earth is flat and hollow, which is why it should come as no surprise that the people who just spent decades claiming that vaccines cause autism are now telling us that the culprit is also Tylenol. And we were reminded of that last week as RFK Jr. doubled down on his dubious tirades against acetaminophen, this time rallying baby penises to his defense.
Okay. The image of rallying baby penises is fun. Like, in my head, it's a Braveheart scenario.
Yeah.
He's like, RFK Jr.'s doing the speech in the voice.
Yeah, right,
going
in
up
his
and down
voice.
the line of the baby penises.
So, no, we've already talked about the initial press conference where America's Lysenko announced that he did his own research on YouTube and figured out that the real culprit behind the definitely genetic condition is Tylenol. And when the entire world medical community responded with an overwhelming, yes, that's nice, are you going to finish those cheese snacks or should we put them up? He claimed that the pushback to his scientific breakthrough was entirely rooted in hatred for Donald Trump.
Okay, credit where credit is due. Like, I know you can't technically describe the cause of autism because autism refers to a variety of phenomena and comes from a variety of genetic conditions, but even if Trump had found autism under a goddamn microscope, I'd have waited till someone checked his work before I believed
Sure,
him. You know,
yeah, no, that's fair.
He's
Yeah.
got me.
So now the new news on this comes from a meeting with Trump and his cabinet last week where RFK Jr. admitted that he didn't have proof that Tylenol caused autism, which you would kind of expect somebody to have before they made the claim as the health secretary that it did.
You'd love some proof, yeah.
That would be awesome. But don't worry, because according to him, quote, we're doing the studies to make the proof, end quote.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, conclusion first, research later, just like all the best science.
Well, here's the thing. The existing data is not going to work for that. So they're giving what they believe to be autism pills to pregnant women to prove that they're autism pills?
Yep,
Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, here's your extra strength Tylenol and a model train in case this works.
No. Now, his claim here is that mothers who take Tylenol during pregnancy expose their fetuses to the autism suite of genes, which can be tricky to do, yeah. But it manages, I guess. So you'd figure that as the self-proclaimed world's leading expert on in utero acetaminophen exposure, he'd have a pretty firm grasp on the finer details of embryonic development, like, for example, where the fetus goes. An assumption that you'd have been disabused of during the cabinet meeting where he referred to a pregnant woman, quote, with a baby in her placenta, end quote. Huh. Which, to be clear, would be a weird place to put a baby.
Yeah, it would. It would. Sometimes they like to eat the placenta, so that could get dangerous. I like to believe that Cheryl Hines is just doing pranks at this point and seeing what she can trick her idiot husband into saying in public. Perhaps.
Absolutely. On his way out the door, she's like, today tell him that if you hit a woman in the neck, the baby's born faster. That's a real thing. Trust me, inside tip.
Hey, Cheryl, I mean, like, tone it down a little.
All right. But now, so I promised baby dicks, so let me get to the payoff here.
You sound like the announcement on Epstein's plane. Can
yeah,
I
no,
say
that's
that
what I was
to you?
quoting. I was just trying to do a
My God.
back to it. Yeah. So Kennedy also said that penis-wielding babies who get circumcised get autism at twice the rate of those who don't, and concluded that that must be because they're given Tylenol after the procedure. Now, to be clear, there is one single Danish study from 2015 that showed a link between circumcision and autism, and a fuck ton of studies that show no link at all. And the Danish study had no records of what painkillers the babies were being given before the procedure or after the procedure. So even if the data were robust, it still wouldn't show what he's saying it shows.
Okay, so every baby, born baby, has an autism gene or suite of genes, kind of like a sleeper cell in there, and the Tylenol activates it like a winter soldier.
Or it gets together with the vaccine and activates it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this brings me to my question. If I had mutilated my kid's junk, would it have undone his autism, or would he be extra good at puzzles? I need to know.
Right, yeah,
Because
exactly.
me and Ann are in a fight, and I want to know.
Interesting. Well, so bottom line, the worst person you've ever argued with on the internet is in charge of public health, and it's going exactly as good as we expected it to.
And in Mutiny on the DHS Bounty News.
Nice.
There's an important new alliance in the war that's raging in the streets of Chicago. The very real Antifa Secret Army finally teamed up with the Sinaloa drug cartel to really get something done. And it's about time. It honestly felt like Antifa didn't even exist as an organization until now. So in order to get more average Americans doing recon, kidnapping, and assassination of ICE officers, the Sinaloa cartel, along with cooperation from their rival cartels and in coordination with domestic extremists like Antifa, is offering bounties of up to 50,000 American dollars. That's according to the news team at DHS.gov and their chief editor, Christine Noem, who shot a puppy in the face, it must be mentioned.
You know how a bunch of scam emails used to use like spoofed.gov emails? It's nice to know that we have no way of knowing if those emails are real anymore. Huh?
Yeah, right. But now you have to admit, though, if this leads to a rash of people killing ICE agents and then getting all bummed when they realize the bounty isn't real, that is kind of funny, right? Because they kind of brought it on themselves.
That is kind of funny. So here's the official statement on DHS.gov last week. Despite the grave warning from Pope Bobby of Chicago about the evils of clickbait, the DHS put a headline at the top that says, bounties originating from Mexico offered to shoot ICE and CBP officers in Chicago. And I really wasn't exaggerating about what they're claiming. The statement continues, quote, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has obtained credible intelligence indicating that Mexican criminals, in coordination with domestic extremist groups, have placed targeted bounties on U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, personnel, end quote. They also mentioned that local gangs and other sympathetics are deploying spotters to track the movements of the very legitimate stormtroopers in masks trying to conduct the totally chill and legitimate Operation Midway Blitz that they chose as a name for their operation.
Did they mention how much the bounties were? Because Max is in feeding therapy like 3 times a week at this point. There's just
But also, these are secret bounties, right? Like, why are we only hearing about them from the DHS?
That's not how those work.
Yeah, you got to kind of publicize a bounty for it to be effective. Otherwise, how would you know where to bring your ICE scalps?
Doesn't even make sense. So here's the alleged bounty system, just for intellectual curiosity.
Thank you,
Fingenedigital
University, the thing he said.
According to the DHS, quote, cartels have disseminated a structured bounty program with payouts escalating based on rank and action taken. $2,000 for gathering intelligence or doxing agents, including photos and family details. $5,000 to $10,000 for kidnapping or non-lethal assaults on standard ICE/CBP officers.
You don't even have to kill one?
And, wait for it for intellectual curiosity, up to $50,000 for the assassination of high-ranking officials.
So, but you got to feel like ICE agents are like comparing their personal bounties now, right? Like how low can you be ranking and still be worth $50,000, right? Is it embarrassing to only be worth 22? It's like, man, you kidnap the two of us and barely get you. You know, like the
yeah. They're also looking at each other like, for fragging.
I am the worst possible form of human. Let me.
Yeah, no, I did sign on to do this kind of shit for a $50,000 bonus. So.
Yeah. So, based on my research, the evidence for the bounty system is the DHS just proclaiming it. That's it. Of course, outlets like Fox News just blindly repeated it as well. The DHS says they have credible intelligence in their thing, but they never elaborated on that, and nobody else seems to have any knowledge about it. That includes Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, who did a great job of expressing how it works when you have to investigate giant, stupid lies by your idiot neighbor in a situation like this. According to President Sheinbaum, her entire government has no information. And she added, quote, "We are requesting information, but there is none."
None
End quote.
exists.
Just got a text from Christy. No, apparently the information is neither here nor there.
Well, no, that's true. In this case, it isn't. Look,
It's a NAFTA problem.
Mexico's like, look, they said they had credible intelligence, but at this point, DHS doesn't have credible anything or anything intelligence, so we're not holding our breath.
Yeah. So clearly just a pretense for some Insurrection Act shenanigans straight from the fascism playbook. And pretty much the entire community of organized crime experts would agree. They would agree this doesn't make any sense. For example, The Guardian spoke with a former Mexican cartel trafficker, 2 former DEA agents, and a drug policy scholar, and all those people said approximately, yeah, that's fucking stupid. That makes no sense. The main theme being drug cartels are famously focused on not getting a bunch of attention from law enforcement. It's like kind of their whole thing.
Right, this is razor blades in the candy for grown-ups. Yeah.
For ICE agents, yeah.
And here's my thing. If the bounty system is real, what are the logistics of collecting that money?
Great
right?
question.
Like if I'm a newly recruited Antifa assassin, a sympathetic who's like, cool, I'm in, and I pull off a job. I go down to Mexico and I'm like, hey, does anybody know Mr. Sinaloa by any chance? And then, obviously everybody would know. I would get pointed in the right direction. I get to the cartel's house. Sure. Okay.
They have, yeah.
And they got a house, I bet. Probably.
Sure,
Right?
they gotta have a house. You gotta live
Nice
somewhere.
houses. A casa, it might be called. And then I'm like, hey, I'm not going to say casa there. Hello, sir. I brought Dean Cain's head. Can I get that bag of money now? It feels like a bad system. It's not going to work. Antifa and the cartels need to think it through.
Okay, but you
Logistically.
should still saw off Dean Cain's head and bring it to Mexico. Just on the off chance that we're wrong.
Well, yeah,
don't
right.
want
Look,
you.
Heath's got to disprove his point. Like, no system where Heath brings Dean Cain's head to Mexico is a bad system. Right?
Great, important
That is
point.
absolutely correct in the jokey bit we're doing. And
Hey, I never said it had to be detached from his body.
Yeah, maybe you take him on a romantic
I'm
vacation
just bringing
to
him,
Cancun.
and I got him on a leash. We're in a kink thing. You don't know
yeah,
what
possible.
Dean and me are into. Could have been that we were talking about. Positive. So just before we wrap it up, quick story about how I learned about this news story. And it starts with a meme that I just learned about recently called Kombucha Girl. That's a video of a woman trying kombucha for the very first time. She smells it and she says, okay, it smells like a public bathroom, which is pretty accurate about kombucha in my experience. Then she takes a sip and we watch her face do a full double take about what she's experiencing. Her face is like, okay, gross. Wait, hold on. No, gross. Well, like that's the double. So I got a text from Ann the other day and it's a screenshot of the headline about the bounty system and then a GIF showing Kombucha Girl. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Fantastic.
right.
I got to say, Heath, I always thought my favorite part about you getting married would be watching you love and be loved wholly for the man you are. But no, actually turns out it's the 3 years out of date meme education you're getting. I'm excited for you to hear what happens in the club.
I thought you were going to say, and my favorite part is Ann's cool. You're not great, but Ann's cool. That's fair.
I also like Ann. And in word to the Weiss news, anti-woke journalist, scare quotes, Barry Weiss will serve as CBS News' new editor-in-chief because if your horse keeps losing, eventually someone will start betting on the one that wins, even if the one that wins is a literal Nazi.
Yeah, in the case of Barry Weiss, a Jewish Nazi. It's tricky to find. Politics is weird now.
Sure
it's
is.
weird now.
Sure is. So if you haven't heard of Barry Weiss, she's the fucking worst. She spent her tenure at the New York Times building up the reputations of people like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, but then someone put an axe emoji next to her name in the New York Times Slack chat, so she left to start her own newspaper without all the pesky even-handedness of the Times opinion section.
Right.
Yeah, she said there was like bullying. That was part of it. But basically, she quit with a dramatic grievance letter about open discourse being stifled. And that was her main problem. And the fact that Barry Weiss was getting published at the New York Times is perfect evidence that her grievances were stupid. The existence of the job she was quitting unraveled her entire quitting argument.
Yep.
Sure did. As for her publication itself, the Free Press has hosted a wide variety of positions, from anti-DEI think pieces to anti-vax medical advice to homicidally dangerous lies by ex-children hospital employees lying about how they're turning the kids trans when you ain't looking.
Well, but there were already newspapers that reported the truth, Eli. She didn't want to do what had been done.
Yeah, well,
That's
fair.
boring.
That's fair.
Exactly.
But that's not all. Weiss also received $500,000 from billionaire Republican donor Harlan Crow to help launch an anti-woke nonprofit organization.
What the fuck is happening?
Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, or FAIR. FAIR's board includes left-wing outsiders like Megyn Kelly and Andrew Sullivan, and has tackled the important issues of kids using pronouns in schools with that money.
Okay, taking money away from Harlan Crow, I guess it's technically against intolerance and racism in some sense. The guy has
'Cause
like
he doesn't have
a
it
statue
anymore, yeah.
garden of fascists in his house, but that's not how they meant it. No, that was
No,
money from that guy.
Fucking Republicans are now entirely the party of I know you are, but what am I?
Yeah, that's fair. So why is CBS doing anything besides escorting Miss Weiss out of their lunchroom for accusing the Meatloaf of supporting Hamas? Why? Money. Of course.
Big fan of Netanyahu, too. Big fan.
The Trump administration recently allowed Skydance Media to merge with CBS, and as a thank you, the network has made a series of right-wing gestures in the Trump administration's direction, including, but not limited to, settling a lawsuit about making Kamala Harris look better spoken than Trump on a 60 Minutes interview by playing a video of her talking, and then canceling The Late Show with Stephen Colbert for calling it a bribe.
Yeah, so, I mean, good luck, CBS. Maybe Barry Weiss was the missing ingredient for your broadcast news business.
Yeah. It was nice of them to add the plank to their logo, though. At least they were being honest about it.
Yeah. So big congrats to Barry. She, like absolutely everyone else, proves that there is no amount of evil or stupid you could be between 2015 and now that you won't somehow, some way, be tremendously rewarded for it.
Oh, I'm going to no-and you with my entire next story, Eli.
All right, I'll
Okay.
take it. I'd say I'm
That
happy
sounds like
with
good
a no.
news.
Yeah,
happy
it is.
to hear a
It's
no.
Yeah. And finally tonight, in fill-in-the-blank news, one of the few silver linings about following along with the Trump administration is the direct opposite of the point that Eli just made. Sorry, man, I wrote this before I read your thing. Though Trump himself is cataclysmically immune from any goddamn comeuppance whatsoever, virtually everybody in his orbit is eventually destroyed by it. Right? Like, Mike Pence's political career ended with his constituents chanting about hanging him. Rudy Giuliani has been so thoroughly disempowered by various state bar associations that he's no longer allowed to argue about coupons at the grocery store. And Mike Lindell is asking Jimmy Kimmel what it would cost to rent that crane machine as his primary residence. Well, we can add to that list one Philip Calvin McGraw, a.k.a. Dr. Phil, whose pivot to megacity has him bankrupt, off the air, and sued by the Professional Bull Riders League, among other things.
Okay, when I said you could ride me for $100, this is not what I was implying, fellas.
Wow, the PBR League is suing him. That's fun.
Yeah.
I think he's also getting sued for likeness theft by Wario,
Yeah,
the
it's really
bad Mario
very
character.
embarrassing for
not
him.
bad.
Yeah. So,
Character assassination as well.
yeah. So his aggressive descent into irrelevance begins in 2023 when he formally signs off from his afternoon talk show amid a flurry of accusations that he mistreated staff and guests. These were piled on the existing mountains of ethical complaints about just what the show did as its premise. But in November of that year, he announced that he was going to start his own media network in conjunction with Trinity Broadcasting. So he packed up all his people and his shit, and he dragged them from Hollywood to Dallas, Texas to start Merritt Street Media, which pretty much immediately fell apart. Within months of the launch, Dr. Phil was suing Trinity for not providing good enough equipment, and then Trinity countersued Dr. Phil for not providing good enough ratings. Hell, 8 months after the launch, the co-host of his anchor morning show quit to go back to her YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick to doing smelling salts with white supremacists. Thanks so much.
Yeah, never a good sign when people go from your job that you offered them to TGI Fridays, for example. Just trust me on that. And this was even worse. I'm saying that was depressing just now, what I heard.
Right. So shortly after the public "this is worse than YouTube" departure, the Professional Bull Riders League ended their broadcasting partnership with Merritt Street, which was a whole of 4 months old at the time. In those 4 months, Merritt managed to rack up $3.5 million in unpaid rights fees. So naturally, they also sued, along with pretty much anybody else that Merritt owed money to. At that point, his entire media network was averaging 27,000 weekly viewers.
Oh.
If
That's adorable.
any one of our podcasts had that few weekly listeners, Eli would personally kill himself.
He's right. I would.
So,
Absolutely would.
So then Dr. Phil figured he could save the network by expanding into Canada, where they love Trump-centric media networks. And apparently he set up like a fake Canadian production set to trick investors into thinking that they were ready to launch. Didn't help. Numbers dropped to 17,000 weekly viewers. So Dr. Phil, I shit you not, tried to save his network by getting into podcasting.
Just lying down next to me on the train tracks. And you're sure this is how you do it, right?
I pushed Dr. Phil off a ledge onto a different track to block a different track. Am I playing the game? What are we playing?
Yes, you're playing the game right. Yes. Now, despite
I was doing something else. Is it a game too? That's
Now, despite its truly staggering profit potential, podcasts were not enough to return him to relevance. So in June, his network went on a summer hiatus that continues well into the autumn. In the meantime, they laid off a fuck ton of their staff that they dragged to Texas, and they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. But at the exact same time, Dr. Phil announced that he was going to start Envoy Media, which would be the exact same business under a different name, but without all the debts. Right. So the judge was like, hey, man, are you doing the Michael Scott I declare bankruptcy thing? And he said no, but the judge and the creditors are not buying it.
No.
Cool. So now the Professional Bull Riders League owns EnvoyMedia.com, the site, I guess, and like a WeWork lease with the lemon water add-on.
Yeah, right.
We'll see how it goes the rest of that liquidation.
So even with his ICE ride-along and high-profile interviews with Trump, RFK Jr., and Netanyahu, it turns out that nobody's buying the tough guy act from Oprah Winfrey's Robin. He tried to reinvent himself as an anti-woke culture warrior, and look, I get why you'd want to reinvent yourself if you were stuck being Dr. Phil, but it doesn't look like anybody's buying it. Or I guess 17,000 people might be buying it, but that's about it. And unlike some humiliated, broken, bankrupt, mustachio celebrity Trump allies, this one doesn't even have a mountain of pillows to cry himself to sleep on.
Maybe you can get that ICE bonus and then work some sort of bounty
there you
thing
go.
at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. That's $100,000 right there.
There's a lot of way you could help your family, at least, with the money, Phil. And on that note, we're going to close it out. Thanks to No Illusions. Thanks to Eli Bosnick. And thanks to all the listeners who liked us and followed us on all the various internets. Please keep doing that. Please keep listening, and please keep telling your friends.
Oh, hey, if Dr. Phil signs up for ICE and then kills himself, does his family get the bounty?
That's a great
That's what I'm saying.
question.
Who do we even call about this?
Mr. Sinaloa. I'll get on the phone. And if you find the naive stupidity of our giving away a free show business model to be oddly charming, you can send us gifts of money at patreon.com/Skepticrat. Just like all the generous new donors, you will be complimented next time around. And whether or not you're feeling financially benevolent like those fine people, if you enjoyed our brand of whimsy and you'd like to hear more dick jokes free of charge, check out our brother and sister shows, The Scathing Atheist, GodAwfulMovies, D&D Minus, and Citation Needed, available in all the podcast places. We just have one last thing. Let's compliment that pianist. Special thanks to Ryan Slotnick of Evil Giraffes on Mars. He is the creator of the virtuosic musical stylings you heard today, which were used with permission. You should definitely check him out using the links we provide or by Googling the only band called the Evil Giraffes on Mars. Until next time, catchphrase sign off.
Sign off. We should start an olds show, right? Like where we just go back to some day back before things were complicated and just give people weekly news, but from like, June 7th of 1993 or something,
Ooh. Hey, it's 1947. We won the war. Things are going great. There's a progressive tax system and a golden age of the American economy.
Yeah.
And then we run the show until September 10th of 2001. And the characters who did the show, they died in 9/11. Like they
there you
constantly
go.
talk about
yeah.
how
We're
great
going
it
to
is
do
to
a
work in
live
New
show
York.
from the Twin Towers. Yeah. Okay.
What's that movie that ended with the Twin Towers? That like romance that ended with the Twin Towers? We're doing one of
I don't know.
those.
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
No, that ended with.
That wasn't a romance movie? Now that I think about it, it definitely was not that.
Remember Me. Remember Me
Okay.
is a straight romance from 2010. And at the end, he's supposed to be meeting her somewhere, and it pans out, and he's in the Twin Towers on 9/11.
Wow.
It fucking rules.
I did not see that. That's
It's got Robert Pattinson in it.
Fucking
It
yikes.
sounds like a thing I'm saying right now as the stroke takes over my head, but I promise it's
no,
true.
Okay.
Hey.
All right.
your stroke writes good stuff.
Yeah.
Cute.
I'm intrigued.
The preceding podcast was a production of Puzzle and the Thunderstorm LLC, copyright 2025, all rights reserved.